This video is sponsored by Shebop. Shebop is a woman-owned sex toy boutique for everybody, specializing in body-safe products and education. Visit sheboptheshop.com to shop online or take classes.
It's funny, we hear so much from all the sex educators that we work with and therapists and counselors that almost every problem in any relationship, sexual or otherwise, pretty much comes down to, well, try communicating better and learn those tools. It really does feel on one level like, no, every instance is specifically different, and this sex problem must have this solution, and this sex problem must have this solution. But no, really, the baseline is all talk more.
And that's whether it doesn't matter if you're monogamous, polyamorous, if you're relationship anarchist, if you're just business partners, if you're just fuck buddies. Communication is, even if you're hooking up for the night. Hey, stars, what is my STD status? T, what are my turn-ons? A, avoids. I don't want to. Hey, I have this. This turns me on. Avoid that. I'm not looking for a relationship tonight. 2, let's wear rubbers. Communicate. You know what I mean? It builds confidence, and it also creates a world of consent and safety, which is something that I like to have when I'm interacting with folks.
Yes. Yay.
Communication.
Oh, consent culture. Yes. Communication. I think, it really does come down to it. It's annoying because, like, where do we learn that besides in some communication books and like at some random classes that are offered? But that's not stuff that's built into our schooling growing up. Most people don't get that modeled in their families. Certainly it's not doing very well on the media showing people how to connect. People will be like, look at each other and make these eyes in an elevator and just bang on TV. And you're like, no. You didn't do your first talk. You didn't, it's normalizing it, I think, is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being the initiator in that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm happy to tell someone I'm not interested in something, but I can be talking to a lot of things.
No, I say that though, because I think people are often surprised at me and then I feel like, oh shit, did I over communicate, which isn't a thing. But then I start to feel shy about it. Like, oh no, did that take the mystique away? I think that's one of the reasons we're not great communicators. We're supposed to be mysterious and alluring and all these things. So if you just lay it out on the table, where's the game?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't part of the issue thinking of it as a game at all? Maybe more of a dance.
Yeah, and dances are collaborative, and you need to communicate in that, or you're gonna step all over each other's feet. So
exactly.
And I think, speaking as somebody myself who I know I often think in extremes, so I'm definitely familiar with the argument. If I communicate, the whole idea about asking for consent. If I stop every step of the way and ask for consent here and consent here and consent here, that just ruins the mood. And that's a very limited idea of what communication and consent can look like. But then again, we also had a storyteller on our show last year who demonstrated that being asked about every little thing, consent along the way, can be super sexy, which is something I'd never considered before.
Well, the key is to communicate and ask that person what their preference is as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use consent language in just regular conversations. When people are having like a really bad day and like people that always have problems and they need to talk to you about them, I kind of require people to ask me for consent to talk about their issues. Because I believe in energy transfer. And, I was like, hey, I'm not feeling that today. Can we talk on Thursday? And if consent doesn't work for you, that it's going to be really hard for us to have any type of relationship. And it's a huge turn off for me.
I mean, it's interesting you bring up consent language. I think that's something we'd all benefit learning in, like you said, whether it's sexual or not. Even coming out of the pandemic right now, we're all going to be having to have conversations like, how comfortable are you with me being this close to you? Do you want a fist bump? Do you want me to not touch you at all? Do you want a hug? What works? And we're all going to need to be able to communicate with each other in that way. Is that not so?
Are you referring to the wedding we just attended?
Not specifically, but that's certainly an example that that would underline a lot of those issues.
Were you just telling Nicole that before we started recording?
I was.
I'm going to tell these two this real quick. If it makes it to the cut, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was officiating a wedding in Colorado where it's a lot. They've been just like balls to the wall for months now. And I asked the grooms to have consent bracelets, like red, yellow, and green, which meant, you can elbow me if it's green, or you can hug me if it's green, you can, elbow me if it's yellow, and you can, and please stay away from me if it's red. And, well, Eric, I'll speak for you. Eric was the only one wearing a red bracelet, and nobody paid any attention to it whatsoever. They were just like they were like feeling him up everywhere. And one guy was a friend of a friend who I'd never met in person. And I approached him and I said, oh, you must be this person's name. Are you comfortable with a handshake? I'm totally vaccinated. And he said, oh, I'm not. And just like reached over and gave me a huge bear hug.
Do you see our faces? I look at James.
Yeah, 100%.
Eric, I mean, ultimately, like, I'm vaccinated, but that's not the point, right? That's not the point.
It's not the point at all.
And so, yeah, that was Colorado in a conservative state and people drunk at a wedding, but that's going to happen. Like, we're all going to be drunk at a wedding in like a month, we're all going to just, I feel like it's going to be like the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, geez. I just had my kiddo camping with some other kids. We were all outdoors running around, and my kid is going to be 3 in a few weeks. And we were just like trying to teach consent because they would run up and just like try to hug the other kids. And these other kids are, around the same age, and so haven't had a lot of interaction with other children. This is like the first time they've seen kids in a long time. And they were like terrified, and the adults are still kind of, a little. So everybody was trying to just be really good about like, hey, is it okay if we share this pasta salad? Like, should we each time just get a separate spoon? And then with the kids, like, we need to ask before we touch people. It's so sweet. You want to give a hug, but let's ask first. You can't just grab. And so like trying to do that from a young age and trying to surround myself with people who are doing a consent culture. But I'm just very lucky in that way. And I'm part of building that. But I wish more people had that within their communities, and it could kind of spill out into their families, and people could practice it more, because it's really important. It's really important for people's safety. And it could have, made you all feel a lot better at that wedding if people would have asked, or if people would have paid attention to Eric's wrist bracelet thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think it is being modeled more and more, and it's slow, as any progress is ever. But yeah, given that wedding story, and James, what you were saying again about consent language, it occurs to me, maybe this should be obvious, but it's communication obviously is a two-way street, and it's not only about knowing what to say and how to communicate to another person, but also how to listen. If the person that you had told, I'm vaccinated, if they didn't take that as an opportunity for a joke, but rather heard that as, this person is communicating with me that they care about vaccinations and
you care about me.
Yeah, exactly. So listening and understanding is as much a part of communication as the giving of information.